This video is brought to you by Pixiv, who'll be holding a giveaway at the end of this video. Background is hard. So in this video, I want to show you 7 ways to create background without having to draw. From techniques that I've seen many artists use, to testing free filters and 3D tools that are fast, easy, and produce great results. To finally, my ultimate next level ridiculously epic awesome legendary tool, which I've used to create this background in under 4 minutes. My obsession with background began while analyzing the winners and finalists of a recent art contest by Hoya Fair and Pixiv. A contest I participated in, but wasn't really happy with my drawing. So I wanted to find out what made their work stand out from the rest. And I found background to be a key factor. Just look at how it not only showcases skill, but also enhances the story, which is essential for an art contest. In my previous video on Pixiv's channel, I was focusing on fundamentals like anatomy. So if you're like me, you might also be refining your fundamentals, or in the process of developing a style to stand out, or trying to balance arts with life, school, work, all while trying not to burn out. So not only is background difficult, it might not even be your priority. But hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have several strategies to quickly create backgrounds while allowing you to focus on other aspects of your art. When it comes to background shortcuts, 2 things came to mind: photographs and 3D. To see how they were used, I spent time analyzing patterns in artists' works on Pixiv, an online art platform for posting illustrations, manga, novels, as well as hosting art contests. So there was a diverse range of artworks to analyze, and these were the 3 main techniques I found. First, a lot of artists try to make the photos look flat, which I found out is often done using posterization. This basically reduces the color, resulting in a more stylized look. I first tried this out in Photoshop, Clip Studio Paints, and Krita. Turns out it's a common function that many apps can do, and it works just fine, but it's not the best. Which is why, if you have Photoshop, I highly recommend using the cutout filter, which gives a better graphic look. I'll be trying out free alternatives later on, so don't worry if you don't have these apps. I also see a lot of artists choosing to blur the photos on top of posterization to further hide realistic details and to create depth in the image. There's many ways to do this. You can blur the whole photograph using something like Gaussian blur. Here, I also experimented with different background compositions. You can also blur the character and the photographs to create this depth of field effect. Other than blurs, I also played around with color and lighting to hopefully give you more ideas. Finally, I noticed additional effects like color corrections, outlines, halftones, grains, chromatic aberration, and glows being applied on top. And here's how I did it. For color corrections, you can use tools like tone curves, levels, hue saturation, or camera raw filter if you have Photoshop. For outlines, you can use poster edge filter in Photoshop. Other softwares may have different methods, like Clip Studio with its convert to tone functions. Halftones can often be found in filters. I applied them to a separate duplicated layer, so I can control where it will show up in the image. Same with the grain. But be careful with halftones and grains because it's quite easy to overuse, like what I've done here. For chromatic aberration, I only know how to do it in Photoshop by selecting one of these channels, then selecting your whole canvas and shift the image slightly. Lastly, for glows, you can use blend modes like hard lights, screen, or color dodge. For this one, I tried using the linear dodge mode, but honestly, it feels all the same to me. This 3 steps of stylize, blur, and effects became the workflow that I followed all throughout this entire video. But I'll be honest, this is kinda overkill. Although these effects can create great stylized results, I've seen many artists use photo as is and it looks just fine. Other than that, there's one thing that I wasn't satisfied with, which was the posterization effect. I felt like there has to be a better way at making your photos look hand-drawn. Not only that, I felt like I was focusing too much on doing it all in Photoshop. There's so many more tools out there, yet I was limiting myself to just one. So in this part of the video, I decided to test out various free apps to create stylized background, focusing on speed, how easy it is to use, and of course, the results. If you're talking about filters, then FotoSketcher is a great tool. This free app specializes in painting, sketches, and stylized filters. My favorite is Painting 3, which feels like a mixture between paint and graphic style. I basically use this tool to replace the posterization tool I then did some color corrections, added blur, and finally added effects like chromatic aberration and grain. And this was how it turned out. And here's how it looks with my drawings. I was following along with Shiba Sensei's video on Pixif's channel. His approach of adding stroke to each layer creates a very fun process. Not what I'm used to, but the result was awesome. However, if you want a background that's more anime, then IbisPaint is a great choice. The manga and anime filters completely caught me off guard with how great they looked. There were some weird artifacts, but it's free and easy to use, so I can't really complain. But if you think anime filters are too cheesy and is looking for something different, then perhaps you might like FIMO, a film emulator that instantly adds a hint of nostalgia to your photo. Just look how beautiful each of these photos turned out. I honestly love these so much. Film photos are the complete opposite of cartoon or anime style, but it felt so unique, so refreshing that when I saw how this turned out, I knew I had to use it in my drawings. I also tried putting finished illustrations back into FIMO, and that also worked pretty well. So if you're looking to give your illustration a unique look, definitely give this a try. Although these methods give fast, decent results, I feel like there's something special about drawing it by hand. Knowing that the artist put so much time, effort, and skill into something makes me appreciate it even more. These are the works of the finalists, so if you're interested in seeing how the winners use background in their art, you can check them out on Hoyo Lab. They and the finalists were a big inspiration. Pixif also gathered them into an ebook, which also contains 2 guest illustrations, one by Shiba Sensei and the other by me. If you happen to be in California, you can see some of the artworks in person at the Teyvat Fashion Show events. If you do go, please send me a photo. And speaking of photos, I found one major limitation to using photographs. And that's how it's a photograph. Basically, it limits our art to reality. So what if we want to add more creative elements without drawing? What can we do? Well, we can use 3D. But when I look at free tools like Blender to make anime style backgrounds, it just looks like it'll take a lot of time to learn, which kind of goes against the whole objective of this video. I wanted to avoid learning and drawing backgrounds to save time, so it doesn't make sense if I then spend hours learning background but in 3D. So instead, I tried 3D in Clip Studio Paint, which felt like a nice middle ground. Clip Studio Paint isn't free, but I wanted to try and see what it can do. So what I did was import free models, set up the camera, then convert the scenes into lines and tones. I'm not sure how to get the color, but with this, you can start getting scenes and angles that's not possible with photographs. This would have been good enough if it weren't for the fact that I was looking into Blender earlier. I like the idea of having full control of modeling, lighting, camera work, and so much more. So I ended up back where I started, searching for ways to make anime style backgrounds in Blender. I felt like the easiest and fastest way to do this would be to just import models, but then you can't get that anime style render without messing around with shaders and textures, something I have no idea how to do. At this point, I spent so much time that I might as well learn how to draw a background. I just couldn't find a way to turn 3D renders into stylized images. And that's when I realized I'm stupid. I was so focused on doing it in Blender that I forgot that we already have a way to do this. So in theory, all I had to do was download some models, set up the camera, put in some basic lightings, then render it out and repeat the stylization process from earlier. I'll leave a link to all the files below. I modded these myself, so feel free to use it however you want. Since 3D can be intimidating for beginners, I want to show how it can start off very simple. So here, I set up camera and gave it a fisheye lens to make the scene more dynamic. Then add an image of the sky to a plane. And lastly, arrange default cubes randomly to create something you might see in an anime fight scene. But what if you want to create highly detailed scenes quickly? Is there a way to do that without having to spend hours searching for models online? Which then leads to the final parts of this video. My ultimate, next level, ridiculously epic, awesome, legendary tool. It's Unreal Engine. So let me show you how I use Unreal Engine to create this background in just 3 minutes and 50 seconds. No cuts, and go. First thing I did was open Unreal's built-in library. I then imported free models into the files. The new files also came with essentials like lighting and sky, so in just 10 seconds, I was ready to build the scene. Next, I set up the camera, adjusting it to create a cinematic composition. I then adjusted the lighting, clouds, and fog to create a beautiful sunrise. Since all of this can be done with sliders, it was super simple and fast. There was no need to do anything with rendering, since what you see is what you get. So I was freely able to jump back and forth between adjusting the lighting and the composition. And the composition was just me dragging and dropping models. This was why I called it Ultimate, Next Level, Epic, Awesome, Legendary. But the reason I call it ridiculous is because you need a strong graphics card and like 60 gigabytes to install. But if you're able to give this a try, I would highly recommend it for those looking for a unique way to spice up their art. Unreal Engine is also what I used in this video and these drawings. And while I adjust the composition, I want to tell you about Pixip's giveaway. To enter, all you have to do is comment which Genshin Impact characters you want to see in which outfits, and you have the chance to win these prizes. The lucky winners will be announced in August. And in exactly 3 minutes and 50 seconds, I was able to create this beautiful sunrise scene. To be fair, I did spend hours planning this out beforehand, but I hope this shows how fast and simple this tool can be. In the end, this video was my journey in experimenting with background creation, from 3D to filters to posterization. Some of them I really liked, and some of them I felt weren't that great. So I'm curious, what do you think about these approaches, and how do you create background? If you're interested in how I learned to draw characters, you can check out part 1 of this video on Pixip's channel. Links to files and info on Hoyo Fair's events are below. As always, thanks for watching.